Hello to the third part of this tutorial. Oh, in the second part, we learned how to create vectors. Now we want, and then we learned that by cbind and rbind command, we can create a matrix. But we can, if we have a data set, we can create a matrix easier than that. So we can use the command matrix directly. For example, we want to create a matrix of the numbers 1 to 10, but assign them into a matrix of the size with 5 rows and 2 columns, and then save them into a new argument, and the name of the matrix should be capital A. So I start capital A equals to, I use the command matrix. So you see that as long as we type matrix, R recognize that is a matrix, and it says that you need to the first option, you need to provide the data and the number of the rows and the number of the columns. So here the data, so our data here, like before, I use 1 colon 10, 1 to 10, 10 numbers. And then I want to have number of rows here. It says that very easy, as long as you type 1 or 2 letters, or recognize that which option you want. Number of rows 5, and then number of the column is, for example, 2. So then if you run this command, so you can create it already A, and you see that A is a matrix of the length 10, and it is a 5, it has 5 rows and 2 columns. So if I type A here and run it, so you'll see that A is a 5 by 2, a matrix of 5 by 2. But interestingly, we see that R by default reads those data by column and assign the first 5 numbers to the first column, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But I want to create create a matrix such that I want to assign the numbers by row. How to do that? So let's create a new matrix. I copy paste it, BF, and here, but I name it as a B. So B is a matrix, again the same 5, 9, but this time we type it by row is true, because by default when we don't here add anything, the default is that by row is false. It means by column, but this time we want to say that we want to force R that assign these numbers to a matrix, but read them by row. So if we run this one, and then if we type here B, then so you see that 1, 2, we have again matrix of 5 by 2, 5 rows and 2 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it assigns the numbers to the matrix by row. Then you can index again the matrix. For example, I want to see that what the argument which is in the third row and the first column of matrix B is 5. So how can I access to that? So I can write it as a B bracket 5 comma, we're looking for the third row. So the first argument, it means that the row we are after, and the second argument is 1. So I'm looking for the value in the matrix B such that it is in the third row and in the first column. And then as long as you run it, it becomes a 5, because the 5 is the value in the third row and the first column. If I'm interested in all the values in the third column, for example, fourth row, so I type it here, the first argument 4, the first dimension 4, but leave it blank. So it means that return for me whatever is in the fourth row, row 4. So you see that row 4 is 7 and 8. Or you can type it B, return for me whatever is in the second column. And as long as you type it, enter it, so it gives you all the number values in the second column. And cover these ones. Then how to create a data frame. So in order to create a data frame, so recall the data set we had, for example, of the height, weight, and the name of the 3, 5, 6 students. So we want to create a data set based on them. So if I type here height, So we have it, and wait, we have it, and then the name. So I want to, you get an error because you didn't type it correctly. So name, there. So I just want to create a data set based on these students. What I can do, I can create it by data frame command, and I want to create a data set and call it students. So the name of my data is students, and then I combine these three variables with the command data frame parentheses. Now the first variable of this data set, the name of the students. Then the second one, for example, the height of the students and the height, and then wait. So yes. And now if I run this command, so you have created already your data set. So that's why you see that here a student is a data frame. It has three variables, and each variable has 6 observations. So now if I call it students, so if I call this one and run it, so you see that the data set, you have the 6 students, and for each student you have 3 variables, 3 values for them. For example, I want to see that what is the students. So I want to see that what is the I want to have access to all information of Armin. Armin is the third student in our data. So I type it the 3. It means that the third student, third row, and I leave it blank. And so it gives us, if we run this code, it gives us all the information on Armin 66 and 110. And if you are interested to, for example, Sarah, what is the weight of the Sarah student? Is a student. Sarah is the 4th student, so 4, but the weight is in the column 3. So the third variable, so 3, 4, and 3, and run it, we get an error because the name is not correct. So that's why if you work with the editor, it's very well, you can simply correct this one. It is students. So, and you get the weight of the Sarah is 147. I think we cover almost. So the next thing is that, for example, let's focus on because we have 3 variables stored in date student, so I can call it students, and then as long as I type the dollar sign, the R tells me that there are 3 variables stored in this data set. So I said I'm interested in height, and run this one, it gives us the height that we have before. Now I want to see, let's do it as something else. Cars is a data set in, let's see, type this command, help data set. So cars is the built-in data set in R. So it is, you see that the help, I recall the help of R. So it is a speed. It shows us the speed and a stopping distance of the cars for 50 observations. We have access to variables in this data set. Now if I type in cars and run it, so it gives us, you'll see that it gives us all the data stored in car, 2 variables and 50 observations. But if I want to have access, just like, for example, I want to focus only the speed of the cars, so I can call it cars. Because the variable is stored in the data set, I should use the dollar sign. So as long as I type dollar sign, the RStudio tells me that there are 2 variables, and then I type a speed. And if I run this line, so you get the data set of the first variable. What about if I see, for example, if I type only a speed, if I run it, the R says that there is error, object speed not found. Why, however, in the previous command we get a value, but this one we don't get? Because we should be careful that the speed is a variable stored in cars. RStudio has access to the card but speed is not a variable defined for R. So that's why if we do it is you see that there is no speed is not in this list. So that's why RStudio tells us that R cannot find this argument. In order to do that, we need to tell the RStudio or determine for RStudio that the speed, we need to use this command. Speed is a variable inside stored in car, so that's why we call it car $ speed, and we see that the access the speed. Or another one, car $ distance, and then you have access to all the data sources. Or so that's the end of this part. Thank you for your attention, and I encourage. Oh yeah. Oh no. So if you have stored everything, so what thing you can do, you can save whatever you have stored, whatever you have typed in the editor. For example, I type it in my R lab1, for example, new R R lab R part 4, part 3, R part 3. Remember, we don't use any space in it. And then I want to save it in my directory. So as long as you save it, so now you look at, so you see that you because R set this folder as our directory and access to everything to this one. So that's why even if I have a data set later for next labs, so just we open this folder, and then whatever we data set, we drag our data set into this folder. So if I close everything, now if I go to this folder, I see that yes, whatever we have done, so have been saved, and I can open with RStudio, and you will see that our script is really here. So you have access to whatever you type in the editor because we save it, but unfortunately, whatever we type in the console, whatever are gone because we type them in the console. So that's why I encourage you to type in the editor. You have opportunity to revise them and send it to compile it, and even you can save it, and if you later you can work and revise them. So if delete this one, so now you'll see that why in the folder I provided in the a new text our source. If you open this one with RStudio, you will see that whatever we typed and whatever I explained in part 1 to 3, so I have already typed them here for you, and you can just run them and line by line and see that what do you get. But I encourage you to watch this video and type by yourself and to to better work with RStudio. Okay, thank you for your attention, and that's the end of the lab 1 of our tutorial.